Hi, welcome to today's episode of Life Purpose by Design. We are doing an acknowledgement of the month during the month of May of Stroke Awareness Month. So I have a very special guest that will be joining us later during the show to share her testimony of being a stroke survivor and what her journey has been like. I want to talk to you about the faith factor. Our faith is the foundation as a believer for how we live this life on earth. How do we live it out as a victorious person who knows our purpose and can live out that purpose? So, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Life Purpose by Design for today's conversation, The Faith Factor. The faith factor. I want you to think about faith. What is faith but a confident trust in the faithfulness of God? It is having a life that is centered around having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And through that relationship, we are given the gift of faith. Faith is a gift, it's not something that we're born with, it is something that we are given. It's something that we grow into, that we mature into the faith. When you think about your life, I want you to think about some of the challenges that you have. I want you to think about the times that you felt maybe overwhelmed. Maybe you felt just scared, or maybe you just had such fear because things were not happening the way that you anticipated that they would happen. And you found yourself in a position of wondering, what's next? Where do I go from here? But that's where faith comes in, because faith is an acknowledgement that in and of ourselves that we are not sufficient to do life alone. We are not sufficient to handle the challenges of life on our own. So I want you to think about some questions that I think are critical to your looking at your life from a faith driven versus a fear driven life. The first thing that I want you to think about is just take a moment to think about how your life would be if it was driven by faith, if your decisions were driven by faith, if your choices were driven by faith versus fear. Secondly, I want you to ask yourself this question. Are there places you would travel, people you would help, things that you once avoided, but now you're able to fully embrace them, all because of a confident trust in the faithfulness of God? Maybe you've been planning a trip and you've been thinking about, I need to fly to get there, but you are afraid of flying. Maybe there are people that you know that you have gifts and skills and talents that you can help, but maybe you're an introvert. Maybe you just don't know how to connect with the people that you think that you can help the most. And maybe out of fear, you step back and you hold yourself back from being bold enough to go to where the people are. Maybe there are other things that you once avoided out of fear or limited faith. And now you find yourselves being bold and courageous and fully embracing those things. Maybe it's a new skill. Maybe it's you thought about writing a book and you decide to step out and write a book. Maybe you are thinking about starting a new business and you had things that were holding you back. Maybe you don't know anybody else who started a business, but now you have the confidence of knowing that, guess what? I know that I have been purposed to do this. And so now you're willing to fully embrace. Well, fully embracing those things that you once avoided are all possible through faith. So, what is the bold next step that you're willing to take to live a life that is driven by faith and not by fear? Are you ready today to live empowered through the eyes of your faith? I hope that answer is yes. And on today's episode, I just want to talk to you about the faith factor and how does faith and what is the role of faith in allowing you to live that victorious life that you are purposed to live. So when our faith is greater than our fear, it's a matter of expectancy. It's a matter of you being having an expectant hope for the things that you are envisioning, but you don't quite know how you're going to get there. I want you to think about the word in Hebrews that tells us that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So your faith is evident that God can be trusted, that you are making a choice to be in expectancy and full of hope for all of the good things that God has purposed for you. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have some bumps along the road. There will be challenges, there will be obstacles. But guess what? By faith in God, you and I can be more than conquerors. So our faith is a matter of expectancy. Nelson Mandela said, "May your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears." I want to just encourage you today that when you're faced with big or small decisions that you have to make, when you're faced with some challenge or an obstacle or some overwhelming circumstance, I want you to think about the words that Nelson Mandela says. May your choices, the decisions that you make, reflect your hopes and not your fears. Let's be driven by the confident trust in God and not the things that may have you feeling like you need to, step back, you know, hold back from doing something that is meaningful and that is purposeful by God. There's an anonymous quote that I found that says, "Every test in our lives make us either bitter or better. Every problem comes to either break us or make us. The choice is ours, whether we become victim or victor." I want you to win at being a victor and winning a victorious life. And that's why it's important for your life to be driven by faith, to be driven by something that is greater than you, to be driven by something that can only come from God. The word tells us that God is the author and the finisher of our faith. And so, since our faith starts and it ends with Him, we have the privilege of availing ourselves to Him and being those vessels that He can empower and equip us to live by faith. And again, what is it? It's a confident trust, not in yourself, not in your abilities, not in your sufficiencies, not in, I'm never going to make a mistake again, or, I can do this by myself. No, it is trusting in all knowing, all powerful. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That is the faith factor that I want to encourage you with today. So I want to just talk with you a few minutes about, what does that look like? And I want to do that through a very special guest that we have today. And she's going to join us. Our special guest is Lori Vober. So I want to welcome her to Light Purpose by Design.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Lori. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me back on. I so much appreciate it.
I'm so glad that you're with us. Let me tell our viewing audience some highlights of who you are, and then we're going to jump straight into your sharing about this special month and also just all things faith. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Lori is an adopted mom of three. She's a speaker and an author of the book Choices. When you're faced with a challenge, what choice will you make? She's also a contributing author to some other devotional works that she will share with us during the show. Congratulations are in order for Lori because she's a 2023 Reader's Choice Award under the Christian Living Day by Day category, and also a 2023 Reader's Choice Award, the testimonial category. So shout out to Lori for being an award-winning author. And what we want to talk about today with Lauren, she's talked with us before, but we want to really just focus in on the role of her faith and the impact and the influence of her faith on that journey. And so, Lori, I want you to just go ahead and give us an update on what you've been up to, what you've been doing, and all things that you want us to know for the special month of May, which is Stroke Awareness Month.
Yes, Sheila, thank you. And thank you so much for what you've shared so far with your listeners. And I absolutely loved your quote. I wrote it down from Nelson Mandela about your choices. And, as you know, and you shared that the name of my book is Choices. I use that all the time. And, one of the key messages in my book is that we're all faced with challenges. And so many times unexpected challenges. My stroke at age 29 definitely was an unexpected challenge, but so many times when we're faced with challenges, those challenges are what we don't have control over, but what we have control over, and where our choice comes in is our reaction to the circumstances. So I just absolutely love the quote with choices, because really your choice and your reflection and your hopes, not your fears. I loved how you shared that, and that truly is where your faith comes in. And so many times I think where we get stuck is our fear, and we forget that faith part, and to hold tight to our faith, and taking hold of God's hand, and when things are unknown, that's the important part, is to just hold tight to our faith, and let it guide us through past that fear factor. And when we let fear take root, that's when we do tend to get stuck. And so I encourage the listening audience to really, take heart to everything you said. I loved everything you shared, that the faith part is just so key, no matter what challenge we go through. And this is the kickoff today, May 1st, of Stroke Awareness Month. I'm very passionate about it because at age 29, I was not aware of the signs of the stroke as I should have been. Many people think stroke is an age-restrictive disease, and it's not. It can hit you at any age, young, old, and you just need to be aware. And if you think you may be symptomatic, get help right away. I wasted a lot of time that day not being aware. And they have acronyms, the Stroke Awareness Association and American Heart Association. It's really simple. It's called B alert, and it's be fast, and it stands for the B is as far as balance. That's the first one. Balance difficulties. The E stands for eyesight. So if your eyes or your eyesight seems to be going, that's one key. F stands for face. If your face is drooping, or you're any indication that your face is doing anything different, that's an indication of a stroke. A stands for your arm or your leg, if you have a weakness or numbness. I had numbness and weakness in both my left arm and my left leg. S is your speech. If you are slurring your words or you're having trouble speaking. T is for time. That means time to call 911. So just be aware of any of those things, and get help right away. And so again, May is Stroke Awareness Month, and I just want to get the word out that, again, be aware of your body, be aware of your health, and just be aware that it could hit no matter what age. And it's better to get medical attention and not have a stroke than wait and have something happen. And again, just like you said, we can easily get stuck in our challenges, or we can make a choice to move beyond that. And that's where our faith journey comes in. And one of my quotes in my book is Jeremiah 29:11-13, that says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will come and listen to you." And I'm sorry. plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You'll seek me and find me when you seek me with your whole heart. And I love that because that's just our total dependence on God. So I just encourage you, anytime that you get that fear, turn to God and remember He's right there beside you.
Thank you so much, Lori, for sharing so richly with us. Can you share a little about? I thank you particularly for sharing the symptoms and things that we need to be aware of so that we can take personal responsibility if we find ourselves in that type of situation. But what are some other ways that we can support Stroke Awareness Month for someone who may, we're all at some point could be at some level of risk. But for someone who's saying, I want to do something to support those who have been directly impacted by a stroke or who may be in stroke awareness, what are some things that are through the National Stroke Associations that we can do to support? And I'm not saying you're necessarily a spokesperson for them, but I'm assuming you have
Sure.
some familiarity with them.
Yes, yes, I appreciate it. One thing I would just encourage each and every one of you to do is just be aware. I think we get so busy in our day-to-day lives, on our cell phones, when we're shopping, we're out about in our own little worlds. Just be aware. Sometimes opening the door for someone, smiling at someone, saying, "Hi, how are you?" That goes a long way. And you don't know in this day what someone might be going through. And so I encourage you just to think outside the box, think outside yourself. When you're walking through a parking lot, if you see someone that may be struggling, take that extra 2 minutes to ask them. I was shopping just the other day and I was leaving the store, and some of the carts these days have those big poles on them so you can't take the carts out of the store. And so I was leaving a store that had one of those, so I was carrying all my bags myself. And a young man actually stopped me and said, "Can I carry your bags for you?" And I was fine carrying them. However, I thought that was so nice that he took the time to ask if he could help me. And so many people don't do that. And I am extremely independent, so I am probably the last person that will ask someone for help unless I really need it. But it goes a long way for you to hold a door open, ask someone if they need help, or just ask someone if they're having a good day. So, I just encourage you, if nothing else, think outside the box. If you have extra opportunity to volunteer, um, opportunities like that are plentiful at the Stroke Association, American Heart Association. All those organizations are always looking for volunteer opportunities. So, you know, I just encourage you, think outside the box anytime you can.
I had a lifetime mentor who he suffered a stroke when he was in his 50s, and he actually did not transition till he was about 95. So I got to
Wow.
watch him for about 40 years go through that journey. But, he did everything that they told him to do. He went to all of the therapy sessions, he did the at home. I mean, he used to work out so hard at home sometimes. I would get tired just looking at him. But he was so determined to have the best quality of life that
Yes.
he could have. He never, at least in my presence, and I spent a lot of time with him because I would run errands and do a lot of other things. He never allowed the stroke to view himself as a victim.
That's so
And so
important.
it may have taken him an extended period of time, like to get to the door or different things. So I know as part of his team, we would have to make like, for example, he ended up giving me a key to his home because otherwise I could literally be out there, about 45 minutes waiting to access his home or something. But I was so moved by his tenacity
Mm,
and his drive for that many years that even though he did everything they told him to do, he did the therapies, he still had certain mobility challenges. But to the very end, he had a tenacity and an endurance. And this was a person who was a very strong faith mentor for me. And so whenever I would go to visit him, the conversations would always go back to something about faith or about the Word of God. And I've been blessed to, um, he donated several Bible study books out of his library before he transitioned to me. And I was like, gosh, if I could just have that type of tenacity, that type of perseverance by faith. Can you just imagine in every area of life? And it doesn't have to be when you have suffered a major medical emergency or crisis.
Right.
My hope is that people who listen to this today will realize faith does not have to be a crisis manager in our
Right.
everyday life. God
Right.
is just calling us to faith, to trust Him with the small things and with the big things. It's a life that I can't even compare it to anything else.
He doesn't want us to wait for the crisis.
Yes,
Yeah.
He's okay. If that's how you come, that's fine. God is not going to tell you no, and He's not going to turn you away. But can you imagine the quality of our lives, our boldness, our courage that we would have if we made a conscious and intentional effort to say, you know what, I'm going to trust God. And I know that I'm going through a challenge right now, and God is just keeps saying, by you live by faith and not by sight. You live by faith and not by
Mm.
sight. And so, even if you have to constantly remind yourself of that no, it don't look too pretty up close and personal. But guess what? God's vision for our lives is so beyond what we can see right here and now. So, Lori, tell us more about what you've been up to. You have been getting awards, you have been contributing author to multiple books, you've been doing a lot. So, update us on what Miss Lori Vober has been up to.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the shout out on the awards. I am so grateful for that. And I actually have another new compilation coming out just at the end of this month in conjunction with Stroke Awareness Month. I'm very excited about my first book that came out, Choices. When you're faced with the challenge, what choice will you make? Actually ended up being all about the blessings and challenges my husband and I have gone through from medical to life to adoption and parenting. And I did touch a little bit on my stroke journey, but really it was a combination of everything that we've gone through. And this new book that's coming out, I'm super excited about because really it is all about stroke. And it came together with, as a compilation, with 5 other women. So it's made up of 6 different stories and all of us on different journeys. It's called Girl, Get Your Life Back. And I'm one of the compilation authors and just super excited about this. All 6 of us have gone through different journeys of stroke at different ages. And we all, although we all have different stories and different journeys, we have really several things in common. Number one, perseverance. Number two, the same idea of hope and encouragement. And number three, we just want to use what we've been through to help others and to encourage others and not to be stuck. And we all have the same message that things happen and we are going to continue to persevere both for our own selves and to encourage others to keep moving on and our new normals. And so we wrote our journey in this book. It tells of our life before our stroke, our recovery, and our lives now. And so I'm just super excited. It publishes on May 26th. You can go on my website at www.lorivober.com and find out how to contact me. But it's in pre-order status now, and you can get your copy today. And so I'm just super excited to share this opportunity with you guys. If you know of anyone or you've had a stroke yourself, it's a great opportunity for you just to learn about 6 women who have gone on the same journey that you may be on, or you may know someone that's been on. And it's just a chance for us to encourage you.
Thank you so much, Lori. I was thinking about 2 Timothy 1:7 that says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And Joyce Meyer says it this way: it's okay to feel fear. It's not okay to act on those feelings. So, as you've been sharing about the new book that you've co authored, what an awesome testimony for those women, including yourself, to say, you know what? God hasn't given me a spirit of fear. He's given me, power and of love and a sound mind, and to take those gifts from God
Mm.
to be a blessing to others and to help people realize that maybe a stroke is not your story. Maybe that's not your journey. But I can only imagine the faith and the tenacity and the perseverance that are shared between those pages can be used for any of our life circumstances so that we can factor faith into every area of our lives. So, what was it like getting the awards? What was that like?
Oh, I was honestly, I was super thrilled just to be nominated, but I was absolutely thrilled when I heard my name called because they gave me the opportunity each time my name was called, and thankfully it was called twice. And I was at the award ceremony in Dallas, Texas, um, to actually speak, and that was what I was so thrilled about, that I got to share my heart and my message twice with the audience, and really um, the crux of my message is really what we've been going over today, is really having a faith and not a fear when things happen in your life. And I just, so many times when people see me in this environment that you and I are talking right now, they just don't see the disability, and they and I am so blessed and so thankful. God did help me recover so much, but I do still have a physical disability, and you don't see that when we're talking, but you do see that when you see me in person. And so that gave me a chance to see the whole body of me, and I think that just proves my message even further when people see me in person. So I was just so grateful for that opportunity to um, further my message in person, and just for others to be aware that the choice, like, once again, where we're talking about choices, the choice comes in of when um, tough circumstances play a card in your life. Where are you going to go with it? And there were tough choices, but I read an amazing book by an author by the name of Nick. It's called Unstoppable, and he was born with no limbs, and he really made the choice himself of whether he was going to use the challenges he was faced for a purpose. And that book really has driven my own passion of, we are all faced with challenges, big and small, in our life, and we have a choice of when we're faced with challenges, whether it's a medical challenge, whether it's a physical challenge, a mental challenge, an emotional challenge, um, are we going to let that challenge and that fear stop us? Or are we going to use it to drive us to something greater, something to help others? And what's the purpose? And that's where our faith comes in. Every time you're faced with a challenge, look at it as an opportunity. And that's where your faith comes in, hand in hand with God, of what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, I like to, one of the things that I use to encourage myself is face reality, but choose faith. So it's not about sitting around being in denial about things that are evident, but you're choosing faith to believe God for his plan and his best plan and purpose. And we're praying,
Right,
believing, you know, we may pray and ask God that we may not want to experience something. But guess what? Through God's divine knowing everything and knowing the pathway that our lives will take, we have to trust him even in the times when we would say, really, God, did we really have to experience this?
right.
One of the strength builder scriptures that I reflect on for my faith is Isaiah 41:10. And it says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." I'm just so grateful that we have this ever present God with us, that
Yeah,
even when we feel like our faith is wavering, and we will have valley and mountaintop experience as
yes,
part of our humanity.
yes,
Even with that, God is like, that's okay. I am still with you.
yes.
Another, I guess, thing that I say sometimes, and I call this being on the winning side of faith, is flipping our fear and landing on faith always lands us on the winning side. With
Mm.
faith, you will win. We cannot lose with faith. We may not have the outcome that we anticipated or that we desired, but when we can flip our fear into faith
Mm.
through the empowerment of the Holy Spirit and through trusting God, and like
Yes.
you said, making a choice, making a decision of our will, that I will walk by faith and not by sight. So, Lori, I want to share quickly four, I call them the faith factor momentum, just to encourage everyone as they've listened to your story, as they've listened to the testimony of you living it forward, and prayerfully as they go to your website and actually order the book and pre order the books to read the stories and the testimonies. One is to admit your fears but confess your faith. Go ahead and get it out of the way and say, God, I'm not feeling too confident about this. Actually, I may be feeling overwhelmed and just outright scared about this, whatever that is. But confess your faith. While I'm not feeling comfortable, while I'm feeling fearful, I confess faith. I confess the faithfulness of God. And I confess that regardless of what I'm feeling, because faith is greater than a feeling, I'm going to trust. So admit your fears, but confess your faith. Make progress, not excuses. So even if you are feeling a little intimidated by something, maybe it is beyond your skill set. Maybe it's something new that you've been avoiding and now you're ready to fully embrace it. Just keep making progress. Take the baby steps and not make excuses. Third is keep looking and moving forward. Just keep looking forward and moving forward. Because again, God is the author and the finisher of our faith. And He has a journey for us to fully employ the faith factor in our lives. And fourthly is to intentionally choose our faith over our fear. Is an intentional choice, isn't it, Lori, that we
It
have to
is.
every single day.
I love that. It's
There's
great
no
for point. Yes.
experts, there's no Nobel Peace Prize for faith. It is a day by day, moment by moment. Faith is the reward that we have for trusting God, that we go from faith to faith to faith. So I want to just encourage everyone to just submerge yourself in the choice that I'm going to trust God. Don't have all the answers, have no idea how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to trust that the God who says that I'm going to always be with you, that I'm never going to leave you, the God who actually tells us, Lord, I haven't even given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of a sound mind. He didn't say we wouldn't experience it. He's just letting us know that it's not from him. So if it's not from him, guess what? We don't want it either. So 2 Timothy 4:7 tells us, I have done my best in the race. I have run the full distance and I have kept the faith. Lori, when I think about when I first met you, and as you and I have had an opportunity to talk, to fellowship, to do kingdom life together, all virtually and at a distance, but we feel like we're right there in the room with each other.
Yes.
I think 2 Timothy 4:7 is such a testimony of your life witness. I have done my best in the race. I have run the full distance and I have kept the faith. And the full distance to me is where you are right now today,
Mm.
not necessarily the end of your journey where you are going to meet Jesus, the full race for today, what God has purposed for today. So,
Um,
any last minute faith factor things that you want to share with us before we
Oh,
close?
I so much appreciate that. And, I just think as you were talking, so many times when we're in the middle of a hard journey, we're right in the middle of the fire, we don't see God's purpose. And again, it just goes back to everything you've been saying about faith is we just have to hold on to that faith because we just have to hold on to the faith and then He has a bigger picture and a bigger plan because when you're in the middle of it, many times you don't. And I just absolutely love this because thank you so much for closing with this because I do quote it sometimes, talking about a race. in one of the devotionals, and it's a little bit of an ongoing joke now with my husband and I about the famous fable of the tortoise and the hare, and how I always feel like I'm the tortoise with my disability, but the tortoise is the one that always wins the race, because even though he's slow and steady. And you just have to remember, slow and steady wins the race. And so, same way, keep on it, keep your faith strong, and day by day, breath by breath, hand in hand with God, through the journey, even when things don't make sense. That's what gets us to the end.
And that's what I want to close with, something you just said: slow and steady, hand in hand with God. I want to just thank you so much, Lori, for joining us today. I want to thank our viewers for joining us. And just remember to live this life by faith and not by sight. Lori has given us some great advice. Live it slow and steady, day by day, with our hands in God's hands. Thank you for joining us for today's conversation with my phenomenal guest speaker, Lori Vober. Again, remember to check out her website and to look at the books and the other materials and resources that she has provided and made available to us. Thank you for joining us for today's episode, and we will see you next time here at Life Purpose by Design.